Hello, how's everyone doing? It's me, Local Weather Network. Hoping everyone's having a good time. Everyone's taking care of themselves in these dire times. The economy's a little bit iffy, but hey, I'm not gonna get into economics right now. What really matters is weather, at least to me. So yeah, let's get into it. So right now we have Invest 96L. As you can see right here, highlighted right here with the arrow. And the National Hurricane Center gives it a 60% chance during the next 2 days and 60% chance of development for the next 7 days. Um, this system is, what the National Hurricane Center in their discussion formation or the formation discussion. They say right here, environmental conditions are somewhat favorable for development over the next couple of days, and a tropical depression could form within the next day or two. As the system moves westward to west northwestward, near 20 miles across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. However, environmental conditions are expected to become less conducive by this weekend, potentially ending its chances for development, with a 60% chance in the next 48 hours and the next 7 days. So here's the thing. It most likely will become, a tropical depression sometime soon. If it's not today, tomorrow. I'm gonna show you why. So as you can see, this is where it's currently at. It has these somewhat is they're not that warm initially. They're just warm enough. They're around maybe 80 something degrees, maybe a little bit like low 80s. But then as it moves as it moves away, it's gonna get into the 70s, and it's not gonna have waters that are gonna be that conductive for vorticity for it to form, and so it's not gonna have that much fuel to feed off. But as this weekend eventually heads out and we start entering next week, that's where things start to change. We start having these warmer waters for Invest 96L, which if it were to form, this would be tropical storm Dolly. All right. So right here during initially the start of next week, um, it will start to get into warmer waters. Waters are around low 80s right here around the end of this weekend. It could be around lower 80s, maybe mid 70s. And as we get into the weekend or the end of the weekend, right here, that's where we have these warmer waters they can feed off, which are waters are um around 80 degrees or so, mid 80s, and right here where the end of the center line is, we start getting into those low 90s. So that's where development really could take off, especially during the end of this weekend. So um we have another thing happening as well with the system. It's not just about the development heading into next week and then the weekend or anything like that, but the trend that we've been seeing recently with Invest 96L has been a bit promising in terms of where it can head out. So initially we had this um excuse me, sorry. We initially had these model runs where Invest 96L was just gonna just originally just start curving where it was gonna be at around that where it will be at right now. As you can see, this is where it's currently at around here, and it was just gonna initially go and start moving that north, and then eventually start moving east, near the end and curve away from us. And that's the model run for a few days ago on the 24th of August. So as we get into different model runs, as you can see, the orange line right here, another model run, as you can see, this time it's still curving away from us. It's going to be north, and it's going to start moving east, but it's a little bit more to the west. And the 25th model run is similar as well, but then right as we get into that 12Z model run, things start to look completely different and a little bit more not it shouldn't be anything alarming because this is something that's not 100% that's going to happen. It's not forecasted to happen, but it starts to be look more promising when you have all these type of trends. Now we get the model run for Invest 96L, and as you can see, now it moves a lot more towards the west. and not just a lot more to the west, but now moves a little bit more south to the west as well. And then when we get the last model run, especially like around today around 2 p.m., a little bit later, and 8 p.m., all these model runs, we start noticing this exact trend right here. This is where we were just last at. Now, the latest model run is showing something completely different as well. Now, it's not curving away from us anymore. It's not gonna go, it's not gonna make this little curve and go north like the 25th model run is, or the 24th, where you're originally just gonna go turn away. They're gonna curve north and move east away from us, curving slowly, no problem, right? Now we get a completely different scenario based off what the last trends were. Um, the latest model run, which is the line that's highlighted in black here, shows now it's time to become a little bit more promising, right? So now that we have initially a more promising model, these model runs now, we could see some more promising development now. So now it's not just going to move away, it's going to start moving west towards potentially the United States. Now, this is still really far. No one knows what's going to happen yet. This is just something that we have to keep an eye on. This is just a start of something that could potentially become big. Everything little can turn into something big. And this is where something can happen. Now, Invest 96Ls, here's model forecast intensities, as you can see right here. This isn't, as of right now, this doesn't have a chance of becoming anything that big. We're still really far out. As you can see, it could potentially become a low end tropical storm. Not really any threat, even if we're on land, because a weekend tropical storm isn't really that much of a threat compared to, let's say, Category 3 major hurricane. So it's still a storm. It will definitely bring a lot of torrential rainfall to where we could make landfall on, but this is something that's really far out. Now, here's where things could get a little bit more concerning during like I said, during the next moving into next week. Those warm waters can really feel it. And now here's the spaghetti models of Invest 96L. So this is just an overview of the kind of the cone that we have going on here. The spaghetti models are showing something initially a little bit different. Now, everything that you see here is just the hurricane spaghetti models from all the different computer models right now. And of course you have some moving a little bit more further away, a little bit more north. You have some that are moving south. You have the H1 model that's just moving, it just goes into Dominican Republic, just shoots straight down like a gun. The American model you can see over here, he starts curving down near the end of Haiti and just starts moving a little bit away, maybe potentially into Jamaica, who knows. But as you can see, a good amount of all the computer models are agreeing that this could potentially keep moving westward into potentially a Cuba landfall. But other models, like over here you can see UKM2, CTCI. You have some of them, some other models not really 100% there. You can see they're all over the place. This isn't concerned. So all the models, they're not agreeing yet, but we kind of get the point where it could make potentially just keep moving north until it goes a lot more westward into the end of into the basically the tippy top of the Haiti and Dominican Republic. Now, if it goes more north, right? If we get a situation where the system decides to, all right, we're gonna go through the Bahamas, Turks, and Cocos Islands. If we get more of a situation where it moves more north, that could be a worse scenario, because instead of moving south, if it moves south, the waters here, as you can see, they're not initially that warm. Maybe they're around mid 80s, low 80s. They're not really that hot. They're still conductive, but not as conductive as over here, where you have these other models going straight through the Bahamas, potentially even United States rainfall on the East Coast, which is would be a worst case scenario because it would have more time to fuel up. It wouldn't have to make any landfall, and the waters are a lot more conductive because you have their high 80s, low 90s. So that would be a lot more conductive for this system, especially because after the end of this weekend, moving into the weekend, as you can see from the overview, that's where things can change. So now, depending if it goes over here into, you know, more west towards, Cuba, Haiti, and Dominican Republic, if it moves more south, if it moves southwest towards all these other places, and it won't be as bad. But what could be bad is if it just continues moving west, it could potentially, from all these warm waters here, which are definitely conductive, if it keeps moving west, it holds on a little bit to its strength. Maybe, this is a long shot. This is really a long shot. You can see it says Wednesday of next week, and yeah, that's a really long shot, right? Because this is not 100% confirmed, but it's just, potential prediction of it, of the trends continue this way and everything seems to align in order. We can potentially see something like this. So, um, yeah, if it ends up moving more west, both ways, it will go through Haiti and Dominican Republic, potentially even the south port of Cuba, towards eastern Cuba, and this spot right here, if it holds on to its strength, maybe it can re-strengthen depending on how strong it gets as it heads into the Caribbean. So, but the worst case scenario will probably be if it moves more north, if it moves more northwest towards the Bahamas and potentially even Florida on the east coast, which could be more conductive, give or take, depending on how long. Because it's not gonna, for example, if it goes west, excuse me, even if it goes west, the problem is that it's gonna make landfall regardless. So as it moves towards Dominican Republic, Haiti, even potentially Eastern Cuba here, as it moves towards over those countries, it's gonna weaken. But if it continues to choose to land or to stay in water, it's gonna have more time to strengthen and potentially become even a hurricane. But that's a long stretch. That's not anything that that's 100%. But that's just a possibility of what could happen in both scenarios. All right, so here we have the tropical tidbits. Here you can see the models are just updating. I was working on the video, but ended up just updating literally right after. Um, so, but it's not really much of a difference between 00Z and 18Z. So they're identical. There's not really much of a difference there. But anyways, let me go ahead and go to Northern Atlantic. Look. So as you can see, this is where AL 96 or 96 or AL 96, excuse me, is at. So it's at 1,007 millibars. You can see right here. That's where it's at. And I'm gonna go ahead and just forward it a little bit. You can see this is where around it's gonna be the end of the week and around there, and that's where it can maybe start strengthening as you see as I start moving it on. No verticity, it doesn't really form. It doesn't do anything as it moves west towards Cuba, Haiti, and Dominican Republic. In the first, and just like how I said earlier, not much of a difference. You can see a little pressure coming off the coast of Africa there. Not much. I mean, we're only at 198 hours. We don't have the full forecast hours yet because it's just updating. But um, let me go ahead and just closer view. We're gonna take the MSLP view, 10 m wind speed. See, this is where it's at. This dark shaded color of it. As you can see, it starts moving. Right, this is where it's at. It moves across Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica. So right there, it initially doesn't make any it's definitely gonna bring a good amount of torrential rainfall. This isn't, it's not like this is a major hurricane and category 3 is none of that. But it depends if it moves more north. If it moves more north, it's gonna get those higher 80s waters, and it could definitely have a lot more to fuel off there, and it could definitely start a really strong chain effect, and it could possibly become a category 1 hurricane. Now, depending on everything here, how it goes, if it goes west, that's it. It might not really form. but you still have those lukewarm waters. But since they already made landfall with Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and it barely, had enough time to form, there's not much it's going to be able to do here. But if it stays on water, like I mentioned earlier, is a much better chance of development for AL96. Now, this is, more of a theory, but hopefully everything plays out. Hopefully it doesn't become, anything major, no major hurricane or any life-threatening situation or scenario. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Hope everyone enjoyed. Um yeah, but goodbye.